Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm very excited to have my next guests on the show. The next gentleman, the first gentleman I'm going to introduce is Keith Knotek. Now, we've been trying to get together for a long time, and we finally made it happen. And he's joined by his friend, Mario Oliveira. Both of them are veterans in this great profession we call law enforcement. And it's such an honor to have them here today. Keith, Mario, welcome, both of you.
Thank you, brother. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, yeah, it's, we were talking a little bit, Keith, before about how, there's so much going on in law enforcement right now. You spent 30 years in law enforcement. I know, Mario, you spent a lot of time. You both have what you've gone through, which is a bunch of horrible things. I mean, what do you think? And I know this is a broad question. What do you think the challenges going ahead with law enforcement are? I mean, there's retention, there's all kinds of other things. What do you think, Keith?
Oh, man. First and foremost, I think that the challenges in the profession right now at this pivotal time it's still mental health.
Yeah.
There's always been a mental health crisis in the profession over the years. You just never heard about it because nobody was willing to speak of it.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we're getting better. Folks like the three of us right now, are being transparent and willing to discuss it, willing to talk about it, and willing to share our strength, joy, and hope with others. But it hasn't always been the case. And we still need to break that stigma that goes along with seeking mental health help in the law enforcement profession. Absolutely.
And you both have gone through, like I said before, some serious crap, for lack of a better word. And people, and you both know this, the average person out there, I don't mean average in a bad way, but civilian, might have like a handful of terrible events that happen throughout their life. Law enforcement, you both know, and I'm not just talking about law enforcement, first responders, fire, EMS, corrections, they see it on a daily basis, and there's only so much one person or a human being can see of that before it starts manifesting in other ways. Mine was, the attempted suicide of my son, a horrible divorce, things I saw in the military, law enforcement career, you guys know, and then it started manifesting. So if we can, if we're comfortable, Keith, can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you dealt with, sir, and then we'll go to Mario.
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to not like to talk about these things, but I've learned that,
it's therapy.
Talking is therapy, man. It's cathartic. So first time I was shot at in my career was in '88. It was kind of a nothing deal as far as shootings go. 97, I was in a foot pursuit, and I was a brand new sergeant. I'd only been in my new position for like 6 months. So I'm trying to learn how to be a watch commander and all this stuff. Yeah. And one of my deputies and I get in a foot chase, which turns into a running gun battle. My deputy was struck 5 times by gunfire. His vest stopped everything. However, the fatal round penetrated just above the Kevlar. Sadly, Randy was killed in that gunfight. The suspect was killed in that gunfight, and I was the only survivor. And I had survivor's guilt. Yeah. In '97, post-traumatic stress wasn't really a buzzword. It hadn't caught on until after the first Gulf War, after Iraq and Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. So I knew I felt terrible, and there was something wrong with me. I'd hear gunfire in my sleep and such, but I sucked it up because that's what my training officers taught me to do in the mid '80s when I was the new kid on the block. Suck it up. Go have a couple of shots. Maybe some beer. Wash down your troubles, shake it off and go to work the next day. So that was the approach I took. But the drinking hadn't gotten really bad yet. And then, you know, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here to both of you and the listeners, but, you know, there's a thing called cumulative stress,
Yeah.
which, you know, over the years it builds up. So after that shooting in 97, I was subsequently involved in in another one in 2002 on a traffic stop. And then I had gone through by, let's see, 2005, I had gone through my second divorce. So there was the work stuff and there was the personal stuff going on, which just compounded everything.
Absolutely.
And exacerbated it. So I would, you know, I drank more just to numb the pain. The thing about alcohol is it's legal, it's socially acceptable, it's cheap. You go to the store, you buy a bottle, you know, you numb the pain.
Yeah.
And it works until it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, I was involved in another shooting where some deputies and I were pinned down by gunfire on an Indian reservation in Southern California for over an hour. And that resulted in 2 fatalities. Both suspects were killed. And then 5 days after that incident, I married my now current wife. That's how law enforcement works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're so glad you're here, brother. And it's a roller coaster. And, you know, and you both know, you know, I talk to a lot of young people who want to get into the field. Thank God there's still people that do. And I tell people, like, it's not what you see on TV. It's not what you see on the movies. I mean, that's Hollywood. It's the movies. You know, just keep your head down, learn as much as you can, take care of yourself, because that's the key is to take care of yourself mentally and physically, because it's going to be a ride.
Absolutely.
You know, it's going to be a ride. So Mario, what about you, sir?
I forgot what the question was.
Just a little bit about your background, sir, and
so
what you've been through.
Yeah, I got on the job in 1998. Was a patrolman for 5 years and then became a detective. And then in 2009, I was assigned as a task force officer with the ATF in Boston. Had a very good career up until that point. My first year on the ATF, I got over 200 guns off the streets of Boston. And then in late 2010, I began to investigate a criminal who was trafficking firearms from New Hampshire into Boston and selling them to known gang members. And these guns were being recovered at various crime scenes, murders, drive-by shootings, etc. Well, I identify who the straw purchaser is. I bring him in. He subsequently confesses to everything. Give him an opportunity. I was always a fair cop. Didn't want to arrest him. Gave him an opportunity to work as a cooperating source, only to have him screw me over. Never showed up the next day. So the chase was on. And then a month later, it just so happened I was working with my partner, and we, on a whim, just went by his house to see if he was around. And sure as hell, he was home. Tried to effect an arrest. He was in the car. I opened the car door, grabbed him, tried to extract him out of the vehicle, place him in cuffs. My attention was drawn to my sergeant for a split second. When I looked over the roof of the car to see what he wanted, I looked back down. And the guy had a gun.
Oh, jeez.
6 times at point blank range.
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit, Mario. I'm sorry.
Shot me 6 times at point blank range with a 40 caliber.
Jesus.
I had no vest. I had nothing. It took 5 rounds to my chest and stomach, my torso, and 1 round to my forearm. I was rushed to the hospital. I died 3 times in the hospital and was brought back to life 3 times.
Jeez. My God. I'm glad you're here, man. Yes.
I went back to work in 5 months.
What happened to the suspect?
He's no longer with us. Let's just say that.
Okay. All right. I figured. And well, I'm glad you're here, brother. I mean, yeah. And obviously you probably, well, I shouldn't make assumptions, but you had some issues. Obviously, it's an understatement. I'm sorry. After that,
I had a lot of issues. Yeah. So I went back to work in 5 months. Lied to myself. I lied to my doctor. I lied to my family. I just wanted to be me again. And
Yeah.
I wanted to take care of my family, only to suffer a major heart attack. And then subsequent to that, a stroke that left me paralyzed my whole left side.
Jeez. Jeez. What do you both tell people? I'm sure you talk to a lot of people, you talk to people still on the job, and you talk to people that are struggling, I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
What do you tell them, people that are struggling, Keith and Mario, about stepping forward? How do you get people? Because in my opinion, that's the hardest thing, is to try to convince somebody. And that's part of my job now, because we got that rapport, we're all cops or first responders. Okay, we connect instantly, but it's a matter of taking that next step right now and taking that step. Okay, all right, now this is what I need you to do, brother or sister. I need you to get on a plane. I need you to have somebody go down with you to treatment. What do you guys say to people? Because that is some of the toughest conversations that I have had in my new role.
Well, when I talk to people, especially law enforcement, I try to assure them that whatever they say to me is in confidence.
Absolutely.
That anything they tell me isn't going to shock me, because I've probably been there too, been there, done that. I've been down that slippery slope, and I'm living proof that there's a lot, light at the end of the dark, dark tunnel that they're going through. And, I tell them to talk to me, find out what's on their mind, what the deep rooted problems are, even though I already usually have a pretty good idea. And then I refer them out to resources whenever possible, like licensed professionals. I'm not a licensed professional.
Yeah.
But I'm trained in critical incident stress management. I'm a trained public safety chaplain now.
But that next level of care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And try to get them to that next level of care. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, the thing with me, and I don't want to make it about me, but I think it's applicable, is when I was going through difficult times, Keith, and I didn't want to talk to anybody that wasn't a first responder.
Yep.
And that's not a dig on people out there who are civilians that are not first responders. That's not about that. But I remember when I was going through tough times, I started talking to a counselor. I made her cry, and I was thinking, well, how am I you helping me, or am I helping you? So I wanted to talk to first responders that got it. You and I can get on the phone, or us three, Mario, we can all get on the phone and we all get it. Okay, we've been there. We've, it's like Mario's incident was horrible. I've never been through that. I can't imagine. But we're all cops, so we have that connection,
right?
And that's the one thing that I think, because a lot of first responders, they just want to make sure that they're around people that they can trust, and that is huge.
Absolutely. Where you may have a PhD who's an academic, and they're a talking head in the corner of the room taking notes, but they haven't established that credibility, street creds like you and I have, because we've been there, we've walked that walk, and we have we can speak with authority on what we're talking about because we lived it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you now, Mario, up in Mass, because that's where you are, if the listeners can't tell, he's from Massachusetts. What's the state of law enforcement in terms of retention and recruitment up where you are, Mario?
It's pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you guys know about post.
Yeah.
The post restrictions, chiefs are dropping like flies. Chiefs of police are all retiring. We have senior officers retiring early, getting out early, buying back their military time, etc. The biggest complaint that I see in my current profession, and it's in law enforcement, is they're not getting the quality candidates to apply for this job anymore.
Yeah, that's everywhere, brother.
And that's the biggest problem that I see, is they're getting less than stellar people to even apply for this job in this profession. And it's only going to lead to more disasters.
Absolutely. I always used to tell, because I was doing a lot of recruitment, I'd rather go short on the street. I know that puts more burden on the street officers than to hire somebody that shouldn't be there.
Right.
Because you're exactly right. Now I'm not saying people that have, that have maybe, gotten a little trouble or something. I'm not saying they're horrible people. I'm just saying I've seen it before, and you both have. You hire somebody questionable, you're taking a chance, and now bam, you got a problem child on your hand that is more problems than it's worth.
The other major thing, Patrick, that I see and hear from various law enforcement professionals is this new generation, they're on their phones.
Oh yeah.
They don't know how to communicate with someone one-on-one. They're so used to Snapchatting or Facebooking or whatever platform that they're on. They don't know how to interact with someone face-to-face, one-on-one.
Yeah.
They lack that verbal judo technique that we once had when I was on the job.
Yeah, I don't care how technologically advanced we get. Nothing's ever going to beat the place of face-to-face communication, especially in the public sector jobs like law enforcement. I remember getting into a car. I was an FTO a long time ago, and we just got we had MDTs, the laptops in the car for a while, and I was training this young cop, and something was wrong with the computer in the car, and he was like, "Well, what do I do?" I was like, "What the hell? What do you mean? What do you do?" He was like, "Well, I can't log on. CCIC and all this other stuff is down, NCIC." And I was like, "Okay, well, you see that thing right there? It's a radio." So, I mean, and I'm not knocking younger generations. I think they have a lot to offer, but I agree with you. It's just a different kind of I sound like my dad now, I remember, now it's a generational thing, but yeah, the quality candidates, people dropping like flies. I was talking to a buddy of mine in my old agency, the discrepancy, it's probably up where you are, Mario, and Keith, you have a senior officer on the street with 18 years, then the next person with seniority has like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Right.
So obviously there's a gap there.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Absolutely.
So what do you think, Mario? I'm going to stick with you again, brother. What do you think what are some solutions to this? I know it's a big question, and I know there's many aspects of it, but what do you think agencies can do now to kind of soften this a little bit?
Well, I can think of one obvious one.
Yeah.
As I travel the country doing my presentation, I call to the attention of these officers that when you die in the line of duty, there are benefits that are afforded to your family, and rightfully so. Although no amount of money can ever bring back a loved one.
Sure.
That we can all agree upon. But if you get permanently injured on the job, you get shit.
Yeah.
In a lot of these states, you get 66 2/3% of your pay, half your pay. That's a big discouragement for people that want to come on this job, because they're thinking, I'm going to get shot potentially and then get hurt, and then I'm only going to get half my pay. I don't want this job.
Yeah.
That's a big reason why we're not getting a lot of good candidates. They're aware of this. So one thing they can do is pass my bill that I have up here in Massachusetts to give some protections to these folks. So that way, God forbid they do get injured permanently, they can at least move on with their lives and take care of their families financially.
Absolutely. That is such a good point. I mean, that's a big part of it. Like, people don't get into this job, you both know, to get rich, but they get into the job to take care of their families and themselves. So that's huge, Mario. I know with everything qualified immunity, getting chipped away, all these things. Yeah, that makes sense, brother. Keith, what do you think, my man?
What was the question again?
We were talking about, maybe some solutions or kind of a direction to go with some of the problems, with, law enforcement now, especially in the area of retention, not so much retention, well, retention too, but with recruitment. I mean, it's just getting worse, man. I remember in my career, we saw ups and downs, like both of you have seen, hills and valleys, but it's just everybody that I talk to that is still on the job is looking for an exit ramp. I can't think of one person, I'm not being dramatic, one person and I know a lot of people like both of you, one person that's saying, oh yeah, I'm having a good time, or I love what I do. They love what they do, but they're tired of all the crap.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You get all the political infighting within the organization. and combine that with what's going on out on the streets on a daily basis, and it can lead you down a slippery slope. It's stressful, you know. It's bad enough dealing with the public who aren't always happy to meet and greet you, but then you go back to the station and you have to deal with, you know, the executive staff, and those folks who have their own, you know, some of them, not all of them, but they have their own agendas and different outside sources that impact your ability to do your job.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. I don't know what the answer is. I've been retired for 7.5 years now. I had like a weird career where I promoted like up. I was a commander and then an interim chief. And then when I was in that position for a municipal PD, the Riverside County Sheriff's Department took us over. So I thought I was going to ride a desk for the rest of my career. And then in 2004, we got absorbed by Big Brother, which is a huge sheriff's department in California. So I got brought onto the agency as a sergeant again, and I got sent straight to patrol.
Wow.
Yeah, from riding a desk back to pushing a black and white around. So
and drinking coffee to stay awake at night.
Yeah. So towards the end of my career, you know, I just, it's like, man, you know, in California, you can't retire until you're 50. That's the minimum retirement age, no matter how much time you have on. And I'm like, you know, oh dear God, please just let me make it to my 50th birthday. Towards the end, I started seeing, like, you know, the newer generation coming into the profession. And I'll tell you, it's a different caliber of people. You know, it's like, what can I do to help my community? What can I do to be a team player and help the organization? It's, you know, it's all about me. What can you, sheriff's department or police department, what can you do for me?
Yeah, you're right. And, but I do think that, and maybe I'm just naive, and I talk about this a lot. I do think the majority of people out there support law enforcement and first responders. Now, I wish that they would be more vocal than they are, but I do think the majority of people out there still support police. They're just scared to death to say anything because they don't know if their car is going to get damaged. You can't put a thin blue line on your car anymore. You can't do any of that. You can't put a flag outside because people are terrified that there's some movement that's going to be on their doorstep. But I do think a lot of Americans still majority of Americans still support law enforcement. What do you guys think?
Patrick, I'm glad you just said that, because you just jogged my memory. So one of the biggest issues that I have personally, and what I've seen here in this state, and really in New England, is politics has hijacked our profession.
Yeah, exactly.
It really has. You know, in our state, a lot of these mayors in these communities have taken the chief's job out of civil service and made it a contract job. So what that essentially does is the chief now becomes a puppet for the mayor. And if the mayor, leans one way, left or right, whatever, they're gonna influence that department and the leadership of that department in that direction. Like in my city, my mayor was far left leaning, had a Black Lives Matter banner on City Hall, hated the cops, and he single-handedly transformed our department to what it is now. And I've seen this happen in many departments. So that there is, to my opinion, is the biggest problem that we have in our profession. Is politics has hijacked our profession.
Absolutely. And I remember growing up, I think we're all kind of in the same age ballpark, but I remember, politicians usually, they supported, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you were on. I remember growing up and, both sides kind of supported law enforcement. Now it's open season all the way up to a certain person in the White House right now. So without getting political, now it's open season. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you fall on as far as politics. And it never used to be that way. I remember growing up, showing my age, watching Walter Cronkite, and he would just report the news and let you decide, let you form an opinion. Now we have opinions shoved down our throat. And unfortunately, a lot of people succumb to that and they just believe everything they hear or see.
Exactly. Exactly.
You guys are awesome. You guys are amazing. Now, where can people, where can people, let's talk about really, really quick. Keith was like flicking me off. I think you were doing something with your hands. What are you up to right now, Keith? Tell me, brother. What do you got going on right now? You both do a lot. I mean, I know Mario travels all over the place. Tell us what you're doing, Keith.
Well, besides talking to Mario multiple times every day on the phone.
You got to talk to Mario. Look at him. He's cool. He looks like the Godfather over there, man.
He is. He's a good dude. He's a good dude. Yeah. So I won't go into everything because it'll take forever. But Mario reached out last year. I wrote a book a couple of years ago. Basically, it's my story and talking about life before, during, and after law enforcement. Talking about, you know, being broken, hitting rock bottom, and then resiliency in the end wins. So there was a gal that I used to work with in Southern California, and she got injured on the job. And guess where she went? Guess where she moved to after she medically retired?
Phoenix.
Massachusetts.
Austin.
So she and Mario are friends. They sit on the Concerns of Police Survivors Board in Massachusetts.
Excellent.
Together. And Mario was wanting someone to write his story, you know, about his journey. And so she's like, hey, I got a guy. And she gave Mario my name and contact info. So he reaches out to me. I'm like, who is this guy? And he told me what, you know, he told me what had happened to him. He told me about his career and everything. I'm like, I don't know, man, I'm pretty busy because I'm getting on a plane tomorrow to fly out of state and do some stuff. And he's like, well, let me send you this video. And it's actually, Patrick, it's the video that I sent you.
Yeah.
It's a powerful video. My wife and I watched it together. It made me cry. I'm like, this is too amazing, too fantastic of a story not to want to be a part of it. So I agreed to write the book, Gunrunner. It is the Gunrunner, the story of Mario Oliveira. And it was just released last week. It's doing quite well. It's widely available, you know, on Amazon.
Okay, I was going to ask that.
Walmart.com, Barnes and Noble, you know, the usual. But it's really an amazing story. We've been getting some really excellent feedback on it, and really it's a positive message. In the end, you know, it's kind of that, you know, goodness wins over darkness thing, and you know, life prevails in the end. So it's a fantastic story. I'm just thankful to Mario that he you know, brought me into the fold. And not only Mario, there's another guy in the book, the trauma center surgeon. I won't talk too much about Dave King, but the trauma center surgeon that saved Mario's life.
Yeah, you were telling me that a little bit.
He's got an amazing story himself.
Wow.
So yeah, so there's that, and then there's this second edition of my first book that was just released like 2 weeks prior to Gunrunner being released. So from sorrow to amazing grace. And then
amazing, brother. You're doing great work, my man.
And
Jennifer Tracy.
Ms. Jennifer Tracy and
she is awesome.
We are working collaboratively on a new addition to her book, From the Deepest Darkness to the Light of Hope. And then we have another thing going that I can't talk too much about right now, but it's, you know, it's amazing how God brings people together, like he brought us together. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I mean, I don't. I believe everything happens for a reason. God intervenes. I know he did in my life to get me to treatment. Now, and I know he intervened in Mario's life too. Now, if people want to reach out to you, and then we'll go to Mario, how can they find you, Keith? Because you're doing amazing work, brother. And I'm
Thank
so
you, my
glad
friend.
that we
As
finally
are
made this
you.
happen.
As
Thank
are
you. I
you.
appreciate it. And how can people reach out to you, brother? If
I'm
they
pretty easy to find. I'm on LinkedIn, right. I used to have a Facebook page called, Keith Knotek author, and I changed the title to Gunrunner book. So Gunrunner book on Facebook. You can actually get in touch with Mario or me on Gunrunner book, the Gunrunner book page on Facebook.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Mario, what about you, brother? How can people contact you and learn more about you, my friend, and your amazing story?
Sure. Like Keith, I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm on Facebook. I have a nonprofit organization that I founded back in 2013 that is called Violently Injured Police Officers Organization. It's V.I.P.O 911.org is the site name. Reach me there. The main way is through Facebook or LinkedIn. Message me, and I can connect with some of your listeners and provide email addresses, phone numbers, etc.
Well, Mario and Keith, thank you so much. God bless you both. Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it. Everything we talked about is going to be linked up in the show notes. And you both have my contact information. Well, I think, Mario, you can get my contact information from Keith. But yeah, I appreciate you both. Thank you for serving in this great profession, your input, and the great conversation. And again, God bless you both.